Sangye Chedan Zoye Jonamla Chanjo Bardo Dani Yabzunje Dage Chenso Yebe Sonamje Chola Benje Sangye Ndu Barasho Sangye Chedan Zoye Jonamla Chanjo Bardo Dani Yabzunje Dage Chenso Yebe Sonamje Chola Benje Sangye Ndu Barasho Sangye Chedan Zoye Jonamla Chancho Bardo Dani Jabzinje Dagi Jinzo Yebe Sonamji Chola Binjin Sangye Do Barasho Simjin Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Gyudan Zembara Simjin Tamje Dungal Dan Dungal Ye Gyudan Dawar Juje Simjin Tamje Dungal Mebe Dewa Dan Medawar Juje Simchen damche nyere chada nyeda andrave dan nyumla ne barangyur. Simchen damche dewa dan deve gyudan tembaran gyuje. Simchen damche dungal dan dungal ye gyudan drawaran. Simchen damche dungal mebe dewa dan meda waran gyuje. Simchen damche nyere chada nyedan Nyom la ne baran gyur ji simchen damche dewa dan deve gyu dan zembaran simchen damche dungal dan dungal ji gyu dan dawaran gyu ji simchen damche dungal mefe dewa dan me dawaran simchen damche nyirin jadan nidan dave dan nyom la ne baran gyur ji Oi, te jibu oi, oi, je me oi, no, re ro lin je ai ye de ai ye bo di san ye jin do me de bo wa yi do gue nam do jin lo che bar jo yi dong guru re na mendala ga ne andar ya mi. In English, page 3 to 5.
The entire taking of the Buddha, Dharma, and the prayers, practice, the the state of Buddha, for the benefit of all sentient beings.
May I attend the state of all sentient beings.
I took refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and the prayers, practice, and I take the state of Buddha, for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and its causes.
May all sentient beings be free from suffering and ill causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings never be free from vice, defection, and evil. May all sentient beings be joyous and losses. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated.
May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of vice, attachment, and anger. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and its causes.
May all sentient beings be free from suffering and thoughts. May all sentient beings be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger.
This ground and the flame, strewn with flowers, marked new, and so of the continents, surrounded by the sun and moon. How will I just
Meditation. The Tony Tower in which the dinner year.
오늘도 야말이지 전주였으면 저런 거 진짜 어려워 말이야.
Meditation. Chanju Semjo Rimboje, Make Panam Kenjuruji, Kewa Nyamba Mepayang, Kone Kondo Pewara Show. Thank you.
Just good afternoon to all.
네, 드링치단에 사단인 다풀망고 레트치단에 얇게 레트유토스는 덴데 지림지 수에테네 단다 잘레 난겐겐 소소 주변 겐겐다 아니소 대페네네 레가 잘레 난겐 에네 직메도단 덴데 망보시 데브조 나손 덴데 나와텔라이네 직네 초초즈네미도 응원에다 투시체 야호나손 정말레시 수에네 주스
Uh, would like to start with saying thank you for all of you who have participated and worked at here, working outside, that you have come up with the event of cleaning and planting the flowers. So would like to officially say thank you on behalf of Center to all of you.
어디체 다티 지단에 다티링기 슈치데 지단에 가산디나 살라나 요바나 신지티 잠바다 닌제 다티버루들라 소바도 디숨디 토라에네 슈에기 티링기 롭센터 오텐디지 차고레 지단에 다다 티링디가라 미사와치 티니시 도로와 치찬네 지단에 가서 단다 디슈지 숨데 지단에 가서 나베 슝이나다 지단에 치 뒤견전도 추킬랭겐지나다 키말랭겐지나다 치 뒤길len 동안 저 매제여야 되고 지단에 그거여 봐. 직편도 첨부 여야 되고 된디지 차되고 그래. 근데 지금 저기 뒤긴 동안 저 냠용선에도 지금 너무 줘야 되고 된디지 차고 그래. 다 단다디나 배자디 시송기 당한 저 뒤에는 지금 건데도 쇼가다 지 잠발라야 되고 지금 뭐당 젤레당 대기 티부당 된데 간디시 연구에 된데 라인에 뭐를 쉬어야기 배선 쉬어야긴
So for today's topic, we have love and compassion. Then there's also a little bit about patience or tolerance, and these are something that is considered as needed in our life, in our regular life, whether we believe in religion or have faith or not. Something that is very much needed in our daily life, and there are great benefits of having these in our life, and this is something that in a way we always engages in our daily life, and so today we will follow the book and go according to how it is presented in the book. The kind of definition, function, and effect or consequences of these.
지단에 먼저 잠바제나도 잠바도 오실래 선바에나 가랑저 양용기 돈에 셰즈와나 직 야고 초토다 직 레와 소솔라 직 디히기 초토 된디진 방한저 상매 캔고레 대양 직 양미 심발라 양직 간데 레레로 디세도 예즈 막갑갑라 디스 다다 직 사제로 모두 된디지 도도로지 소지 나마도 된디로 차기도 디엔드 삼발라 타탄다 디간 라인에 직 지르네 디간 라 송데 디 컨디지 모다 덴데 컨디지 바다 디간 라인에 캡텐 메네 상기기 송 카디요 바 덴데 디 피자나 사와나 진기 네 먼저 레레레 진네 데는 만디 제고스
Although these such as love, when we talk about love, we always come up with a very kind of positive, positivity, happiness, and goodness. But it's also kind of hard to present this concept in a very concrete or comprehensive manner. So because of that, this following this would be probably helpful going into the meaning, and especially the quotations from the scriptures. So we will try to follow the text.
pena chamba oji ngo do dine chabi di yugun bana dine sina digiri mena ya ta tanda di pena chamba ki ngo do di kande simchen la mini dewa dal dena chi marung dembar gyuchi nyambe sem ta chik simchen pacho ngo de ni chik dewa dang di hi dang demba samayagi samayagi samlo do te sono ta odin do oji ki ta ngo do di chagido 다 심진 파줘보데 근데 대화다 대야다 대화 되는 지마로 파줘되는 대화다 대히단 덴바이
Dikora na shi lo sha go sum.
어디 로로 어디냐 될 법한 뜻이 숨긴다 나 어디 로셔는 게도
Dikora tuna tsinyi di wa de wa shi lo na. So, although this will come later, but so, for example, love, if you have a book, it's on page 130. The definition of love is a mental factor that having observed sentient beings thinks how wonderful it would be if they had happiness and wishes for them to have it. And so this is how it is defined, love. And then, of course, we'll have, scriptural quotations to back it up.
오늘의 지단이 먼저 뛰긴도 아니 캡도 생겨 점비 캡도 심전담제 대화단 데머규지 동화단 데머규 대급소양 당한서 참바도 땡고르디 단다 디간 라인은 도콘탄에 손샤 상기기 손대바디 심전담제 대화단 대화단 규칙 손도 도시 당도 디나지 된다 땡한서기 참바기 즉 모도디 즉 심전담제 즉 대화단 데머규에게 아니 즉 삼바도 yeah, that na jing ngang zu chik me ba dang mo lam te de tyugin do tab go ru chi dan lo mang che de zo ro de sim jin pa chong mo de ni chik de wa dan ba da di dan ba de yi chi sam lo re do
And this cultivation of love is something that we always practice and recite in our daily practices, such as we just recited earlier in the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings be with the happiness and the cause of happiness. And then if you look at the same page, you will see the sutra, the Buddha's discourse, concentration, combining all merit sutra says, love is to think, may all sentient beings be happy. And therefore, love in general is a thought, a wish, and it's also kind of expressed in prayers, aspirations, or for wanting, happiness for others. So it's very much a thought of for the benefit or sake of others.
어디 지단 따단다 공도 단다 컨슈바티즈 조조르 카렐라나니 모기 솔다 아니 잠발라야 돼 컨디션 덴디시 슈바인 다디 잠바기 젤레도 어디 컨디데지는 심진 셴발라미니 뇌셈당 콘트로당 군진 된소 아니 직 시월제바 매버제 덴데디 조도 차기도 다디나라 송샤도 단다 그도 슈샤나디 덴디스
So there is very kind of about the nature or about the love, itself or meaning. And then the function of such love, also it is stated on page 130, when you cultivate such love, it acts as an sort of antidote to hatred. And it also serves as a kind of basis for not engaging in a negative or a destructive or bad kind of behavior or conduct.
어디지 대대는 되게 yapden라야 상상이 좀 된게 돈이 송반하진 잠반에 다 송신 신라야 펜바 네데 세트 잠발라 직 잠바되기 가르쳐서 소소야 직 뇌지 송바다 아니 신라야 펜바 제바 아니 초 지단에 직 야보 임바다 다 전에 아니 직 sem진 신제니 견당 토하다 군진 ene cheba deso ene jombar chea dendre chigi ene ta chik chele do dendre de ene chik sangye gi sung ta chik dendre digi yapden do dendre re ta deso chik tygyun donga zo ngeba ene ti ago.
And then there is again, sutra, Buddha's discourse, on the same page. Love that engages in benefiting sentient beings is indeed the antidote to hatred. It also functions as a basis for not engaging in bad conduct. For when non-hatred is present, there is no engaging in evil actions such as killing and so on. So, on the one hand, when you cultivate, this love, there's a great benefit for oneself. But on the other hand, it also kind of serve as said here, kind of, eliminating, destroying the very sort of foundation or basis of the many bad or, negative conduct and behaviors. So if we have this kind of understanding in our daily life, it would be, there's a great benefit for this.
Te dharna jingi digi ene tanda di wadila chidane chamba digi kari shen kari shedang pena shedang mi nyembo chabada shedang mi yawar chabada ene nyemba chabala ngencho ki le do ta chi kari do cheba ene tenzela ene minchu bar chebe ene le zo do chigi do digi chigi yoba dina sumba na jire dharna jingi di pumbong abe sheba le sumba na jire simjen la pendo pe number 주비 잠바야 세당기 년보 이노 단다 잠바데 세당기 년보 세당 마요 왔자바다 딜 녜베 랭에 바자발라 미주바 메 라소바 덴디게네 펜도 침보 여바 숭기도 온딘디
Um, so the earlier, the sutra, the teachings of Akshamati Sutra in the middle of page 130, love protects oneself and consistently benefit others, for it is supremely non-argumentative and thoroughly destroys all the severe faults of ill will, rage, and resentment. So, as said earlier, benefit for oneself as well as benefit for, for others. And then another sutra that I read earlier, it also serves as an antidote for hatred. And the previous one, it really helps sort of us not engage in negative or bad behaviors.
어디지 데네다데 숨바데 네 잠바디 소소라 직게와다 잠바데 덴데 여바이나 되게니 디부도보다 펜도도 가려요레서 와나 다다든 차비디나 숨바나지 타도단 덴셈당 뇌셈 시월체바다 이데와 셈미좀바 닝도당 보발라테 때바 저센체와 셈 시징 데 탈롱기 코주소 뇽바다 텔라테네 류데와 세르와소 덴데 용바나 jingi tanda di chidane nga tuikyun dongan tsuki chik dinde chambada dewada kiba dinde yoba ina chik luidang semdang kari ina kibu yongwa shugo re de dharna jingi tanda di chape di nangla sumba na jingi chidane tanda di gana nga tsu chik namjuni kamyun na yundu sambala chik dinde shuyundu sambala sui sumba re kawani sumba re dinde shugo re de chir tanda sangi ki sunga re di gana dodang lung dinde tangi tu de di chidane matangba ina suso chiki tuikyun doyane chik zo de rang dina sungpa na jingi chik soso la cheba chene pendo yungi yume soso nyongwa gengo ne kengirwa tiyen tu zambala ta dinzo chik tuikyun doyane chik dinde nangwa ina dinde pendo yoba tang chidane chik mangbo nga zo tuikyun do yongda do yin tu zambala di chik pendo chumbo yebe ki di do chik chagayi tang da digan la o dinde dina sungpa na chi shushan na diga.
The result or the effects of love at the end of page 130 are pacification of jealousy, of rivalry, and of ill will. Also, one has mental happiness, courage, great inner strength, and confidence and enduring tolerance. And with mental peace and happiness, one's blood circulation and respiratory flow become even. based on which one has healthy body, a long life, and so on. So these are something that, which we always talk kind of, commonly, well known in Buddhist kind of, understanding. Um, when, you engage in the practice of love, there's a benefit for both a mind as well as your physical health, happiness, mental happiness, and physical health. And so, although you can kind of look into, who or where it is said, in Buddhist texts, but more importantly, you can sort of really analyze this by integrating in your daily life experiences. So through experience, you can actually see the benefit of these. And but again, these are something that is commonly understood in Buddhism.
오디레 대다나 지기가 잠베기 빼나 단다 디간라 빼샤바 빼 숨바나 신기 잠베 미팅 쇼디 셰당 님보 칸디스 두그레제 숨바나 신 디간라 돈 빼나 고바니 그 지단에 셰당디 에네 고바메바 니미 체와 딜리 디sam발라 지간소 직 셰당 게미리 바딘디 숨고로와 다나 지기 디게니 칸디스 체기 요바 빼데 셴제랑라 네바 체바이나 랑게 네텔라 트네 에네 len lo na ta no ba che zimba lar to ba me betela no ba che ba si te zumba digan la tanda o man ju ba le sumba na jin tanda dor du na chenji sula no ba che ba na te gi sa la pa no ba che ko da mo go se ti sun zumba la ta chi shen la pa no ba di na so no ba che be ka te te ba na te la kon be chi to kom chi ti chi te gong ba de te me sumba na jin 동al 질 당한 동al 민대 받아 네바 제바 지르가 좀 생전 탐제돼 동al 민대 봐 지송이 받아 다나 정게 동al 민대 봐 민대 뭐 킬레전도 네바 네바 제발라 렌파 네바 제바에나 가르쳐 티닝 갈도 봐 티엔도 잠발 네바 네렌 제바 투서서 네렌 제바에나 다 디기 겐디 가르치기라 텔레 지금 야 지금 네바데 야 게네 에네 지 랑 메데와 마체 셴년 인생라 소바 타나 에네 지금 남일라 소바 지 율미 정말라 지 지금 메데와다 미케 보는데 잠발라 지 다델라 에네 지 네보테네 시외고는 잠발 체야기 답전 제거가 디스군다 어디서
Um, this here the Puna, the Zone is engineer, the engineer, young Shuji King is water under the long So love, as we said earlier, serve as an antidote, for hatred or anger, and as said in there's a quote from Chandrakirti's Entering the Middle Way. There's a little difference in terms of the order sequence in English translation. So it is on page 134. So if somebody kind of hurt you, inflict harm upon you, do you want to take a revenge in the same way or not? And thinking or contemplating about that, the Chandrakirti text says, if you respond with vengeance when someone harms you, does your vengeance reverse what was inflicted or not? So by reversing, vengeance, does that really kind of treat what you have received from that person or not? So you have to ask that questions to yourself. Vengeance surely serves no purpose in this life. So, taking a revenge really doesn't help oneself as well as for others. And so the understanding here is, again, very kind of common that all beings, sentient beings, always kind of desire for, happiness and never even the slightest suffering. And with that understanding, if you kind of intentionally hurt, inflict harm on others, this really goes against, the desire of the wishes of sentient beings. And so if you engage in such behavior, it not only goes against your own kind of, interest or way of thinking, it really kind of harms others, people near you. And so it brings kind of basically harmful consequences to all. So the point here is that in such cases, one needs to responses in loving way.
어디 제때 디나라 지단에 다디는 와라이네 지게 준주기 롱데 니숨 거치지도 되디 와라 단다디 갈테션은 네스 제반은 집안은 저라진 되는 딜라시도 한데 준주데
음.
인진나도
진짜 여러 반응 디스가 없이
뭐
좀 그래.
음
여보시. 롱가 그래.
갈테션라 체제바 집안은 저라진라 텔라 토르미디 세베라진 메콘다 원데 켄데 로불라 심진 라진 네방 오나 토르미디 셀 칼라 칼라 투두 콤바신 시숨바타데 데
음.
다외 초 공동 좀 받집에 손들라 소바망도 손들 전주 디게 때 돈다 돌드나 직 너가 제바달라 렘마게 렌 직나무가 만나와 텔리티가 직 전주 디 숨을 롱데 직 주셔나 디도
At the
인자나
end of
베게
page
데
135, it is the nature of unwise beings to harm others, then it is just as inappropriate to get angry with them as it is with fire for being hot and burning in nature. And it is, and if it is but an adventitious fault, then it would be like blaming the sky for being filled with smoke. So quote from Shantideva's Engaging in Bodhisattva State says, if it is the nature of childish beings to act hurtfully towards others, then it is as unreasonable to get angry with them as it is to begrudge a fire for burning. And if this is an adventitious fault in beings whose nature is agreeable, then it is as unreasonable to get angry with them as it is to blame the sky for bearing smoke.
롱긴데 어저서 또 퓨신도 따라 어디니시스 어디서 디도
Under 36, there are many techniques such as these to destroy the supreme enemy or anger. So if you use several kinds of reasoning based on thorough analysis with fine investigative awareness to prevent the rising of anger, many types of anger will cease and forbearance will arise in manifold ways.
어디 제디인데 선발라 단다 디기 첨바도 어디 직 잠바기 첨바도 어디 딘데사 디나니 조조디 다 직상기 롱 송베는 도당바당 디기니 젤 오다 젤레 참베 디부 다 디기 미튼초 디조 네고야데 케침버리 지단네 가지 디균도 세나미도 추 나베 슈네 가지 조조 단다 가지 가레더지 나와이나 페나 단다 가지 도지 단다디 시야도디 가르쳐서 퇴비 공도를 적어라. 지단 퇴바다 삼바다 되니 공바 되니 지니 되균도 가리는 되니 신난고 삼바 되니도 시기 sem반한다 주도거래. 그래서 조종아서 봄냠랜도 도이나 가린다고 신나와는 조디 퇴고 퇴바딜라이니 직 삼고래 삼바데니 아니 직 곰네 되니 소소소 랑귤라이니 냠랜도 되니 제라 베슨 난고라. 인디 삼발라 디니 직 개침부 도시 적어라.
So that is a brief kind of about the practice of love. Understanding the meaning or nature of the love, and then its function, and then its kind of the opposite, of such love, hatred, anger, and then scriptural quotations. Again, in general, in Buddhist practice, whatever practice that we do, it starts from, these threefold stages, beginning with basically learning or hearing. First you gather a sort of information, knowledge, and then whatever you have learned, you contemplate over and over. And then whatever you contemplate, you kind of put that into practice, meditation. So again, these are kind of something that is very common yet very important in our life.
어디지 되네다 첨바니와도 어디 저바디 도리죠 디나라이니 직 저바딜라 같이 여와도 숨 시시도 디기 도디도 직슈 디디실라이니 디디슈다도 지단에 소바 다직 잠바다 소바다 니제다 순 소바양 개침부 다 지단 정말 개침부를 제대나 되나네 다단다 소바양 개침부직 자고래 다 된주 잠발 소바들 소바들 숨쉬도 전주 이쪽발은 저백 대화레스도 잠발 소바들 단다디간 동아 당랭기 소바 동아 당랭기 소바다 철랑에서 내sem기 소바다 너바치 미냠プ 소바라니 소바들 shade.
In between love and compassion, there's a brief kind of explanation on the forbearance or tolerance on page 131. Um, uh, Again, a very important practice. Forbearance and tolerance here is categorized into three in the middle of the page. Um, Three kinds of forbearance are outlined in, again, this text commentary on difficult points in engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. Um, uh, Also, Compendium of Teaching Sutra. So these three are the forbearance of consciously accepting suffering, the forbearance of certitude in contemplating the nature of reality, and then third, the forbearance of disregarding harm done by others.
Odire ta chidane ta dandane sobada chambada niji she undi sambala ta chike susu chik ko chik maloba da chidane chambaje de chambada nije soba nangore chegore sede sambala susu chik kyong chombo kine chik dende chine degoya yang chik zo de susu chik 탑단 셔럽 세트 zambal라 탑단 셔럽 니가 베제 제거 치 난거에 베케 첨보요래 베나야 그치 직 데니 잠반 제거를 서바 공부를 세트 zambal라 직 가레 수술라 가레치나 디원도 데니지 사 두산 와이 사마레 상베도 이나다 직 겐도 데니 직 수술라 탑심보 지 중앙에나 데 교바기 탑셰도 수이나 지금 남기로 디 zambal라 직 pena chacha wana nganzu sobago sogomji nyamnen nangore chegore chik tujago ja chikla michige ni yuba shugi yuba na di magane de ado dindeda marwa odinde yan chik manoro nangwa de kechimbo chik kyago ya chik parneba majawana susu chiadi kago chiro.
Um, so when talking about the practice of love, compassion, and forbearance or patience, one needs to kind of know how to really kind of put into practice these three by applying both a method, skill, as well as wisdom. And otherwise, it would have kind of misunderstanding, such as thinking that when practicing patience or forbearance, you would be kind of receiving all kind of harms, hurting for yourself, but that is not the case. So here you can, such as if somebody beats you with a stick, just kind of receiving it without any complaint. That's not the meaning here. While engaging in the practice, one also need to sort of protect, your own kind of sort of well-being or not harming yourself. So one really needs to kind of also not kind of taking a revenge or harming others. So one really needs to kind of understand, sort of applications of method and wisdom, sort of depending on the circumstances.
어디지 다디엔디 잠발라 다단다 디간라니 종알 당랭기 소바 라야데 간디질레 슈고레 세와나 디나 페나타 미세기 디나 카세우도 디나 숨바나징기 페나 종알 당랭기 소바 세트 잠발라 수수 손에당 카탈다 메베 종알 당 아니 강알 체원 남당 강알 체원 당랭체 바다 직디 강알 용도 잠발라 수수기 동랭 간디치 마치 갈때 소소라 강al 첨보진 중데 대저 센터 소센터 미투바이 텐데지 강al 첨보지 중에 요아이나 대기에는 될라이니 직 변나 야스 좀 시월기 준준나라 숨바나지 갈때 주수 요나니 될라메가 지지 갈때 주수면은 될라미가 지지 펜 시송발달 변나 동아집에 율텔라 저 제약이 탑시되지 요바이나 아니 지금 교바 미가와 지구 요마레 송바나진 다나제 때때만 주베 동안 매번 교야 요바이나 tel라야 지 주스 메나야 tel라 미가와 제 펜타 다메 펜토에 메바 딘데 송바나진 직 디디 에네 직 단다니 뒤줄된도 직 나졸라 직 냠len 나야 단데 직 펜도 첨부 요반 남기 용타스 된데 송대 받던데 지기 송차대 되기도 디인서 발라 디든데 지 송거다 또
Um, three types of patience or forbearance or tolerance. The first one at the end of page 131, very clearly explained here. The forbearance of consciously accepting suffering refers to accepting with equanimity painful circumstances from which one cannot escape, such as great difficulty and hardship in one's home life. If you cannot access resilient tolerance when experiencing your own suffering, then consider, so what Shantideva said. So applying this kind of patience to, as said here, the problems, sufferings, circumstances that really there's no escape, that you must experience. So again, this is very, again, as you know, commonly cited, Shantideva's quote, if there is a remedy, what use it to feel upset? If there's no remedy, what use is it to feel upset? So first kind of looking for remedy. If there's a remedy, why not happy about it? Solve it, And if there's no remedy, again, what's the point of being kind of worrying and upsetting? Because you can't do nothing about it. So, these are, as we said earlier, commonly cited, often used in practice, but also very beneficial when you apply to the actual kind of, practices.
소소라 직강에도 간디지 때바이나 틱디에 로라 요바til라 직 삼론 두심도 나와이나 직 텐덴 펜토그레스
So whenever you feel or encounter a suffering problem, having this kind of words within your mind would be really, really helpful.
어디지 되네 다단다 니와데네 쳬랑에셈지 소바스디 직송도 디좀 엄치 된라 접하다 접하다 셈발다 보선다 된다 돌드나 단다 디 쳬랑에셈지 셈바 스스도 좀발라 직다 로발롬냐다나 또 쳬에나도 가리에 디 창와라 소소이 조아 슈첨부 제거하다 딜라 강에다 가리나 요라디 라 동렌치네 직 조아 제거야 딘디 송도 다티나
The second types of patience, the forbearance of certitude in contemplating the nature of reality refers to analyzing and contemplating the meaning of the object to be meditated on. So basically, having a patience, tolerance, whenever you are engaging in study, practice, meditation, and have sort of, power, courage to overcome. For example, while debating, a student of Buddhist philosophy contemplate the meaning of what he or she is debating on.
어디지? 네. 숨바데 네첼라 치미냠베 소바 소바 세트 잠발란 다오스 신기랑 네바 치베시 텔라 미토 소바 콤바타 티안 미토다 다오스 젤 신기에네 소소라 네바 치바테 텔라네 미토 와타 치 팔라 콘도 마스 콘도 다제랑소 팔라 치 네셈지 삼바 마제바 딘디기에네 소바 콤바 딘디젤라 다 젤라 네젤라 치미냠베 소바세 딘디지 숨도 디나 수만지 슈샤나 되게 다
And third is basically not kind of responding in the same way when you get hurt or inflicted harm. As said here, the forbearance of disregarding harm done by others refers to an attitude of restraint and tolerance when, for example, your enemy and others cause you harm. Instead of being angry, you practice forbearance. So anger immediately destroys
테스 니버를 그런 되죠. 로샤나
anger immediately destroys one's peace of mind, causes psychological imbalance, and results in damage to our immediate environment. By recognizing these faults of anger, we adopt forbearance. We do this by contemplating the faults of anger so that before it has arisen, when it arises, we can resist the conditions that fuel the anger.
di zambala tanda di geni zobagi tsiji to di dindichi che tene ta di gangla shu tanda di sumba di gangla ningshe lai di chago ningshe lai ta di su shimba sumro uchi tarando che ningshe ki ngo tang ningshe ki chele ningshe ki kyu ningshe ki tibu shito uchi chagido di shika dina sumba na jing tene di che wo.
So that is very kind of briefly about the practice of patience or tolerance. And moving on to the next, compassion, page 136. Compassion is also presented, beginning with the definition or meaning, and then its function, then its causes and effect or consequences, sort of in 4 sections.
어디 지단에 단다 참바다 닝시도 망치죠 더워르잖아 한테 개발이 요래 다 간다 더워르지 차되고래
And
어디
generally, love and compassion, are considered as something sort of similar with great resemblance, but when looking closely, they are different.
베나타 찌기 닝시기 ngoto 어디 디나 숨바네 심진 셴라 미네 동알지 주다 제바단 달나 치마로 달로 주지 냠베 넘버 미세 심진지 심진 제 레전지네 심중어서 숨바나지 베나 다 니지기 ngoto 어디 디니 심진 셴 동알당 달로다 동알당 달로 주나 치마로 달로 규칙 삼배 삼로드 콜론숨 덴데치 케베니 셈질라 가르즈고즈나 단다디에니 직 닝셰세데 숭도
The definition or meaning of the compassion, mental factor that thinks upon observing other sentient beings, how wonderful it would be if they are free from causes of suffering. May they be free from suffering. So
디 알리티나디 심첸샬라 미네 동알 단타로 균나치마로 동알 타로 교직냐베 ene dana jingi pe do chawa jina ta nyam ta be simjen je dongal na wa thone tela dongal ta dana chi maru nyam be tsewa ta ene dongal ji kyula che be simjen la mig ne yude mig ne yude dan da yu chi nyam be tsewa ta bu ta ran de che de ne simjen nam dongal dan ta lo ta ki chawo nyam chawo she kyom do ki ne ni ji kebar che ni je kebar che chen shun da la sumba na jingi ta tende dina la sumba na jingi ta tu gyul den donga zu chik shung tsam shung na la dende shugore dina sumba na jingi ngena tigidu
um, for example, example of loving kindness that things upon being struck in sentient beings tortured by suffering, how wonderful it would be if they were free from that suffering. And loving kindness that thinks upon observing sentient beings creating the cause of suffering, may they be free from that cause. And based on that, the scriptures also explain the special type of compassion that wishes to protect sentient beings by thinking, I myself will free sentient beings from suffering. So you can see here kind of 3 stages. First, looking at the suffering itself and wishing to be free from suffering. And then secondly, wishing, to be free from the cause of the suffering. And then third, a very special kind of special intention or more powerful, I myself will free sentient beings from such suffering. And these are again very kind of general in Buddhist text.
dana jingi digan la tanda dogi dige gyabden ro dogi long tang ba dila ene chik simjen tamje dongal tamje le nyonson ro la cheba kan yin ba tene ningshe o se ta tanda digan la be dang de ene chik ningshe ki ngo da ta ene chik sangye ki doli be ene ta chik 닝지 징어도 디간라 디 장샤바디 디차고레 띵
And there's a quote from the Buddha Sutra, the concentration combining all merit sutra says, the meaning of the compassion, that which completely frees all sentient beings from every suffering is a great compassion.
다와들라 연결론진다 현재 동아디 개발 통나 메시지 랑게 대왕 고니 베닝실라 거론나된 고바시 수모딘 디디치 슈션 담도 디치
Uh,
ene ta nipa dela ene chik niji ki ngo chele dela simchen namla nambar misiwe lechen yinpa ta chu ngomba kundi le sumba na jengi nambar misiwa kang shedang mebe cha shedang niji sem nin nambar misiwa chen was ta chik chele de ene simchen shen la chik nose dang mechewa dang pensem dendi chi pa dena sumba na jen dendi chi chigor.
Um, so the etymology of the word itself, in the middle of that page 136, karuna, uh, kam means happiness, runa means block. This indicates that when one sees the specific suffering of others, it is unbearable and can block one's own happiness. Therefore, karuna means blocking happiness. The function of compassion is to counteract violence toward sentient beings. Next, the sort of function of compassion. Um, Again, quote, the treasury of knowledge auto commentary says, love is in the nature of hatred, the nature of non-hatred, and compassion too is like that. As stated above, among the 51 mental factors, both love and compassion are in the nature of mental factor, non-hatred. Yet there's difference between them. Compassion arises upon observing sentient beings to be suffering and has the aspect of wishing them to be free of that. Love arises upon observing sentient beings in terms of their happiness and has the aspect of wishing them to possess that. Yeah, compassion is basically aspect wanting to free, and the love is aspect to be with it, to possess, happiness. That's the difference. Yeah.
다디 니지기 젤레르지 다 닝지기 규도데 닝지기 규도데 간듯이 용거를 딘디 숨바나 디나라 숨바나지 랑타 심진 남 대원도지 동알민도 바치 소인비 심진 르 동미로와 다지 심진 심바 상마에니 지소인바다 그 대원도 바다 동알민도 바 상마 지바인바 아니 인디zam발라 상만다냠 난고바 딘디 숨도 심진 nami ngon yor ringbo ne rangi nye du su njo sul tang, teta la tungal na so je nar su samba tang, simchen la penna chebin tibu dedu, jung su so shib du sem se penna ta di sije digi penna ta nga zu tuigyon do nga zu simchen tang, nga yu simchen tamche eze de nam yu nga zu sungo re, di na jing je ta chik simchen tsangma ayni nga rang zu chik tuigyon ringbo shigi nang la chik chik la nye du ki dewa yo pa tang, ma ki dewa yo pa tang, dendre la sobe chik tusim nawa ina de nawa tela tene ta nyingji kiya ki ini gyuro chawar tene dinde la ini tusim gonggu wisar nyingji ki gyuro de la.
The course of generating or cultivating compassion, one needs to kind of, contemplate or think about the commonality of sentient beings, that all sentient beings are basically same, wanting happiness, not wanting slightest suffering, and equal, just like yourself. And also, one's own, as said here, one's own happiness and suffering are the result of benefiting or harming other sentient beings. So, additional to that, through rebirth cycle that we are deeply connected in many, many lifetimes. So these are the things that one needs to sort of contemplate upon, to think over and over, and that becomes the course of cultivation or generation of compassion. And commonly expression in Buddhism, we always use that mother-like sentient beings, applying or sort of sense of bringing that closeness. And in the text here says, as for the end of page 136, as for the cause of generating compassion, this includes recognizing that one must not abandon other sentient beings, since oneself and other sentient beings are equal in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Recognizing how other sentient beings have been one's relative from the distant past, contemplating how they are tortured by various sufferings, reflecting deeply on how one's own happiness and suffering are the result of benefiting or harming other sentient beings, and so on. So there's a sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, in 25,000 lines says, quote, regarding all sentient beings, one must think of them as one's mother, father, brother, sister, friend, relative, family member, unquote.
어딘데 숨바다 단다 디간 라인에 디 카운트 슈바단 도나라 숨바 나진지 직 만족이 닝지기 규다오들라 덴데기 투셈 나와이나 직 심젠탐제 직 마당 파당 파직 보고당 생모다 도보다 덴데라 투셈 셴네다 직 덴데 제바이나 디네 직 닝지기야라 펜도와단 덴데 용기요바 숨바나진기 다 조조 라랑 소소기 덴데지기 직 삼로 semtro sheba ina pendo yong ma yong chik nyam nyong go ne samlo na tu ba ina chik pendo ta ge chen na gen chik yo do na de yong to chidane chik mangbo shi de pendo yong go yo.
So these are, as said earlier, considered as the cause of generating compassion, and really kind of contemplating on the closeness of oneself to others, beginning with seeing others as like one's mother, father, brother, sister, and that sort of brings or makes a sense of closeness with others. And again, here you can really sort of apply this in your experience, and through that experience, as it says in the text, as well as practically, there is a great benefit.
어디 다 chidane 다 닝시기 규치 다 닝시 데 소소라 냠렌다 콤바다 데 야고 요바 ina 되긴 지부도 펜도도 가려요 손야 돼 단다디 인도 템바냐 잘래 송바나지 너무 도대 지 슈샤는 인지는 거 슈샤는
The result of compassion at the end of page 137, as mentioned in the sutra, sutra on the application of mindfulness sutra, that which is called compassion sees all beings as dear. It enables all beings to trust. It is the foundation of faith for those who fear the terrors of cyclic existence. It places beyond sorrow those who have good mental discipline, and it is the basis of refuge for those who lack protection.
어디래 단다 디나네 송바나지 게 뒤균동 알아서 켄데야라 냠용다 가리네 지금 미디 직 상보 상보다 직 디 요와다 닝제다 덴데시 요와이나 직 미디 상마게네 직 이동와 통하다 직 이체제와다 미직 가리이나 덴데 찾아서다 덴데 능게 요방아 냠용근에 하고 오래 디나 송바나지 덴데지게네 다직 니제단 덴데 덴겐지 간사데 덴데 직 교단 켄 덴데지 좀나 아니 덴데 디고 덴데지 여바 덴나 송바나 젠지 덴데 직 소소게 냠len 나와이나 덴데 덴도요 뭉게사레.
So as said in this sutra, again, this is very much based on our own experiences. We know that somebody with a kind-hearted, good-hearted compassion, is a trustworthy person. We trust and believe. So likewise, you can see all this, the effects once you have cultivated, generated compassion.
다 드링기 되게 다 되듯이 되네 다 단다 소자쳐 되는데실은 저 되는 거 준비고는 되는
So that's for today, and we'll take a break. And after the break, we'll have a discussion. See if you have any questions.
소자다 스낵 미소
Any questions? And compassion.
Maybe too tired.
Yeah, look like I had to do the hard work today. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Something. So I'm not as tired as everybody else. So if you're the object of somebody else's anger or your criticism or whatever, sometimes, at least with me, that brings up my own sense of self. It's what it's doing is it's attacking my own sense of self and my feelings about who I am, whether I'm being good or whatever. And it's that little pause time, that is, we find a way to extend that pause between getting that arrow and not responding back in a negative way. What practice would bring us more in depth at that time in the pause kind of section.
계속 소소 콘드가 유로 신나로 미션 바지 콘드 랑에 신바르시나 애니 신바디기 수 콘드 랑도 좀 소소기 다 소소기 기르기 오라오레 딜라 다가로레 생글라오레 퐁에로 지도사 다된데 다디 팔람세 레마 야신데 바라데 디체초로 파르차샤오 동자샤야지 온데 동자샤야데 람사도 콘드로 콘드기 kalawar lema jin para tongja shayadi ani tongja de pa ring ru tang to la nyamlen kharche yore la
네, 빼는 파조기 가르라서 여기요.
ta pajo de sosur khonro lan ro khonro lan da khonro pa lamsa lema ja shin da para je ti che oro khonro jom jome la ma ja shi de parja tongja sha oro tongja de ta tuzu ring su khande tang to nyamlen kharche ore
지단에 단다디도 직 파조기 컨트롤랑겐데 타 녀사도 데델라 임바이나가 고 직데스 데마통와다 데데 갑니 데네 직 데데 쳐와이나 가리나면 나가서 냠냠주고나 하고도 데 컨트롤랑겐다 랑겐데 담라 요와이나 직 컨트롤양주 제요하다 데데 쳐와다 컨트롤랑겐데 데스 직 타링사다 데데 레토와이나 직 잠브라도 응아주기 뇽응네 투투라 다나지 돈다 도디는 직 타 링고 링사지라는 직 강사장 데스 타링 링니 지네 돼야돼 is 야도
from our own experience especially if people who the other one and who cause you anger or who you have anger, hatred, keeping or maintaining a distance would be beneficial because for ordinary people seeing or hearing or kind of that would immediately kind of become the cause of the anger or hatred or whatever feeling that you have. So this would be one way to kind of to keep distance and maybe to avoid the cause or the object.
네, 다나지 지단에 내갑다 컨트롤라야다 직시도야다 아주 상말라 요르데 이나야 다직 삼삼라 직 겐도단 덴디기 왕기 직데스 투즈 링보도 덴디도 컨트롤라야기 투즈 덴데 용 미시바 마라다 아주 직 용되고 지단에 직 요즘 뭐지라야 직 덴데 직 컨트롤란데 덴데 되어 임바이나 직 답하죠 컨트롤란스게 율다 라 제기 탑시 요다메 다딜라바베 직 탑시 직 잠바당 된데기 콤바텔라 되는 직 탑시 요에는 디 탑시데 야소라 다나 진게네 단다 준준하니 딩원도 당반나 진게 직 탑시 요에는 직 지게 샘데다 컨트롤하네 그거다 되는 거 숨바나 신게 어디 그래서 직 되네 된데 제발나 펜도 된데 형 거라서
So we all kind of adopt our own ways or methods to calm down whenever we have feeling of anger or hatred. This sort of immediate immediate remedy, we might adopt whatever that is most suitable or that we are familiar with. For more kind of longer impact, then reflecting upon that we talked earlier, love, loving practice, and other method as Shantideva presented, finding the remedy. What is the remedy if there is at that spot or that time? And then in the longer term, kind of really thinking about the consequences of, having anger or angry thought. Those would be in the long term helpful.
No more question. Mena the ring could the me way na ta chik wa malam den chisasana consult level
Yes.
teacher ne the question me way ni the
So stop here. Maybe many of you have tired from working long hours today. With no questions.
Yeah, what about using anger constructively?
콘도 배주 야보신 당에 요래로도 배주 야보신 나오다 콘도 그러래. 상조라래 콘도
아 지단이 길 콘도기 뭐다 대소 차상 직 다직 칼로 가로 마이데 제디도 오지라다 직 야고 마임바 덴디도 오지 레디 다 콘도 시우시우시 주무즈나 콘도기 남교단 덴데라 때네야 직 펜도 여바잖아 직 남교 덴데 때네야 펜도 여바 덴데 요래 페나가도 도시 디월라다 누솔 nombalada kanchi denga zo tazang kompa dinde khala zo kewe shingen dan dinde gen dan tesu gi namjur dan dinde temba tela tene chik suso gi pugu de zo ne chik lobjon dan dinde cheala ene chik cheba da dinde yong ala pento yongo res
when we talk of anger as a whole, kind of, the general kind of understanding of anger from whatever aspect, it's all kind of negative. But then, depending on the circumstances and particular kind of, context, it can be of constructive. He was saying he wasn't sure about in the West here, but back in monastery, a teacher would use certain, kind of approach at that moment, in order to benefit their students, kind of more aggressive way. So that could, there can be such cases where, or, more kind of aggressive, kind of, anger appearance would be beneficial.
chidane ngaran do chi gi nyamnyong do zina chik kompa nang la lobjon che kapsula chidane ngai gen da dinde tu yun do dinde nang de ga ke mare te genji tu yun do chik chik ne kala warta chik dinde chi gang la shude pombo chi ne shude de zambala kongi shere dan dinde la tenne nga zo chik khari na chi chego da ka jinga dile ma do ina yen tu chi mare ka byon nang gere dinde la kong ne chik 제네 따직 나조야 즉 유도다 가리나 땅 투네 레도 토야 된데라 때네 연구도
그 콘도도 가르쳐.
때나 genji namju kontrol namju tsana 따직 제시 된데 시간을 슈트 되선발라 다 같이 nga 때나 직 된데 기 페나 기루 규도서도 만도와이나 genji 딜레 남주 단데 땡게 딜라 때네 직야직 도야단 딜라 펜토 직 요로
So it's his own example experience, although his teacher usually is kind of, not so expressive, calm, quiet, but if he becomes angry, maybe, kind of have that kind of responses towards his education. And if he doesn't say complete his exam sufficiently, that might cause him, feel bad, maybe anger. So such cases, he was saying, in his case, it was useful. Yeah.
Well, in addition, Chris just said, if I think I'm using my anger constructively, how do I know I am? That I'm not bullying myself?
The intention behind your anger.
But how do I know my intention?
Your anger.
How do I know I'm really seeing deeply my own intention? So there's a deeper depth.
There is that.
Yeah, I don't know, we may not know the depth.
The intention to eliminate suffering doesn't matter what's behind it.
No.
As long as you intend to eliminate suffering.
Fool ourselves.
공조 상전 배치 당에는 들어 상전 배치 당에 들어네.其实说是培训单位呢，说是상전培训单位，看这差活的了都没让去问。
And a lot of self-knowledge.
So
Like
No, I understand.
autonomic anger is
Yeah,
never
but
beneficial.
I would like to ask somebody that's more.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's-
可能原因是主要的空中培训也不上卷的可能当了了，上卷的当的叔叔开始空中上卷当的，但偏多也不就当的空中上卷的应不看的差不多的是，那主要的没人的那个什么，那也是也好了，到空中相关的中那上卷差不多。
Pena ti kontro sakendegi DNA sanjeda tende imba tanda kontro lambe kaptula da kogumare de pena ngazo chike tanda susu nga sudo shimba ina pugu tende la tai nyamnyong da tende ki sheba ina ngazo pugu de la kontro ki namgyo da tende temba ina pugu de dimache diche se de sama ngazo pachola tende lawe ki di yore ta chi kontro ki namgyo da tende tende yang diwala Dio maro di chingore ta chidana nga kontro tene ne pagile ko yiti macheba tela tene shela nga hakuda pena ngara gi nyamyu tsene shena tiki to ngal pu sum de karo chita da tende gi nyamyu yore de gi zumba kondo da tende temba tela tene kunzo gi chi kare na yago chewa da tende chia ka kola yongudu.
So here you were saying the person who kind of holds the anger should have the sort of knowledge in its kind of entirety about his anger as well as how it's going to work on whoever that you are going to show or so he was using his own example. He has several students and sometimes when he kind of express more in an aggressive way that helps kids to become better and how they kind of steady. So he knows that he has that knowledge, and based on that knowledge, then he kind of sometimes it is that it's it is working and it's helpful.
다 디슈온도 좀번에 지단이 땅 저기 콘도데기 덴데라디 베제 땅나 야고레 디디 니슈고메 지단이 같이 뭐 간데 저거 신바이나 간저 대상 뒤에 뒷배에 지 보고다 답변 채고야 당 저기 되반나지 두두야 예랑과 야고촌에 성로 땅고에 개침보래 다디 지단이 응망응말랑 간저 이 리조널라 덴데요를 모두 대상 가리 뭐 뉴어뉴어레 덴데도 지 콘도다 덴데 지 제겐데
So nevertheless, he was saying that he was not kind of saying that one should adopt such method. The method that we use in his case, so for student to understand, to learn better, the other than anger or aggressive, the calmer, it's always better. What he is coming up with is more kind of what he experienced traditionally, teaches how they kind of use method technique for students, and as compared to many years before, even in the monastery now, there's less kind of sort of anger oriented teaching, I guess.
I did have a question too related to that. My understanding from a Buddhist perspective, that anger, true anger, that is considered the most negative emotion
Mm.
includes a component wishing harm
Mhm.
to that person versus what we're also calling anger here as a motivator, something which has, you know, as your teacher intention was to use a stronger approach. To me, that's not anger. Would Geshe talk a little bit about differences between those two?
그런 거 뭐란 어디 개와 거래를 지다 뭐란 기다 나주 장에나 공주기 넘버 되에 줘라 공주 넘버 되네 그 그런 공주 맨날 될 공주 먼저 지금에서 되는데 단 넘버의 공주 되다 아니 야 쌤 나로는 그 그는 공주 요마로 되는데 그 넘버 공주 되다 공주는 슬라고는 디까지 대파라 개와 거래를
지단에 그래서 단다 콘트 남 연기 있습니다.
공주기 다다 나주 나로는 다 그런데 라래라로 그런 공주다 내서면은 그 넘버들 되네 그 뭐라는 그들 공주 먼저 지금에서
알레디 디그리나 지단에 간주 쇼나라 아니 직 직 kulung ani karla ani chik chawa nagwada chawa nala ti yorle karna ki kechashi de zambala pensam ji kunelane ni tose tosap chebaze de sun yorita pensam ji kunelane chik zambala nidong da ta chik kontro da dende langwade chik ta odi dende sun yorita ina ya kulung zo dang zo kulung la ra le yorita ina ya dang zo kaw la dende doji chungora da dang zo dingen de shubana shi dende ije che yorisa yushana digido
Yes, in Buddhist, you know, in Buddhism, uh, there's an action in which your intention is completely positive, you know, the thought of benefiting others. But in the action, it is expressed more in a kind of, you know, anger, aggressive, harmful. So, and but then in our regular day-to-day life experiences, you know, we have understanding of what anger is. So in that way, he was saying that we can sort of there is a differentiation between what actually anger is and then what we consider as anger, although it is not.
chitane tanda di shubana jere dingen dengan jere di ina zo di kulung la ra le gorda ta chi kulung la ra le gore kulung gi ni kulung la ra le gore kulung de ta si sambo se na titane chi gi gen da ki tu gi de na de zamba di gi chele de zo ma che chi di to ina ya kong chi di che wa ina le do la ya samlo jip so ta wa ina pem de yon de zamba la Again,
you know, it all comes down to motivation or intention. With intention, even the method that you adopt is more kind of, you know, anger or aggressive, but ultimately, you know that that will end up in a good, you know, a kind of constructive or positive way. So, but however, we are not saying is not saying that, you know, anger should be adopted as a means or method.
Okay. Yeah.
Saturday teaching in July, we're switching to Sunday teachings, back to Sunday teachings. And next Sunday, we do not have teachings because we are celebrating His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 91st birthday. Starting at 10 a.m., we'll have smoke puja, recite prayers, enjoy lunch and birthday cake. And it's really happy. So, thank you.
Will you climb trees, tell them to
And plant some trees.
like you do?
That's all.
Saturday goes back to being,
Meditation and prayers and chanting.
what time does that start?
Meditation starts at 3 and prayers and chanting at
Yeah. It's okay.
Mm.
No?
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you get patient prayer, page number 49? If you have book.
Sunday classes go back to being,
Yeah, at 3. And no study group tomorrow. So
what time's the study group?
study groups at 1 on Sundays. Teachings will be at 3 o'clock on Sundays.
What about Saturday?
Saturday meditation at 3 and present chanting at 4.
Chanju simcho rimbo che magye pa nama kenjuro che kewa nyamba me pa kone kondo pewa rasho kanri rawe kowe shinkande pendan dewa malun shungwe sire sewa tenzin gyatso ye zabe sede bardo tenjo roche tamba chedara kemba dan kondo sambo teyan tejen Teta kunji jaso da lo je gewa di da tam je rab du ngo e tu sum shebe gewa tam je ngo kan la cho do nga ba de da jen gewe sa wan di kun sambo je je rab du ngo wa ra gi in English.
May the supreme joy of Bodhicitta that has no reason of my grow, and may that which is a reason not to diminish, but increase more and more. In the name of the sacrifice, no one moment is the source of all life and the certain benefits, also the presence and generosity in the years of days remain until samsara ends. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and surmounted the true, so now do I dedicate these merits to reign and follow in their footsteps. As all the victors of Buddhas of the past, present, and future, praise dedication as supreme, so now I too dedicate these sources of my merit for all beings to perfect relations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.